The picture shows what a student observed while looking at a scent through a lens. What happens to light when it passes through the lens that makes the image appear larger? The light is dash. On track, refracted is the correct answer. If the sun is setting in the western part of the sky, in which direction will we find the shadow of an object? Well reasoned, east is the correct choice. We can see things around us because of light reflecting off the object and into our eyes. Great thinking. True is the right choice. Two students, while sitting across the table, looked down onto its top surface. They noticed they could see their own and each other's image. The tabletop is likely to be made up of. Valid point. Glass sheet is true. Objects around us seem to have different ways in which they interact with light. You got it. Your choice, true, is right. When was this picture most likely taken? Correct response. Morning or evening is the most accurate answer. What kind of object are our eyelids? Are they opaque, translucent, transparent? Nice selection. Translucent is the correct and valid answer. A group of light rays moving in an organized manner is called dash of light. Good thinking. Beam is the right answer. Light reflects in an organized manner when bounced off an uneven surface. Smart pick. False is the correct choice. Materials that all light to pass through them slightly are called dash. Perfect. Translucent is the correct choice. What is the best explanation for Mickey seeing himself in the mirror? Smart move. Reflection is an accurate answer. Which letters of English alphabet will not show lateral inversion? Nice work. You chose I-O and it is correct. Shadows always give us exact information about shapes of objects. Excellent choice. False is the right answer. Which types of objects do not allow light to pass through them? Clear logic. Your choice opaque is sound and 100% true. When light reflects off of an uneven surface, what is it called? Well picked. Diffused reflection is the correct answer. Transparent objects reflect all the light falling on them. Strong choice. False is the right answer. The objects which emit their own light are known as dash. You're right. Luminous objects is the correct answer. Which object allows us to see the colors in white? Light. Solid response. A prism is a valid choice. Bouncing back of light from shining surfaces is called. Nicely done. Reflection is a solid answer. All the shining bodies in sky have their own light. Right again. False is a valid answer. What process is taking place in the image provided? War. Well done. Refraction is the right choice. Which of the following is a cold source of light? Exactly. Firefly makes sense and it is right choice. Identify the eclipse by looking at the positions. Good job. Your answer, solar eclipse, works well here. What type of eclipse is occurring in the diagram? Right choice. Solar is the best answer. Anushka put some tea into 4 cups made up of paper, glass, metal, and porcelain. Which cups will allow her to see the level of tea clearly? Sharp thinking. Glass is the right choice. Opaque or transparent? What is this bottle? Great job. Transparent is the accurate answer. Can you think of creating a shape that would give a circular shadow if held in one way and a rectangular shadow if held in another way? Oh. You chose cylinder, and it is correct. Image formed by a plane mirror is dash. Excellent. Erect is a brilliant choice. Which is a device to image the sun? Correct. Pinhole camera is the right answer.
A pinhole camera's images are dash.
Bravo. Smaller and inverted is the answer. Allows little to no light through. You're right. Opaque is the correct answer.
Light travels through air, water, glass, and many other materials. What path does it travel to get from one place to another?
On track. Straight is the correct answer. Why does the cat form a shadow? Sharp thinking. It blocks light is the right choice. The skeleton which is inside the body is known as dash. The skeleton which is outside the body is known as a dash. Excellent choice. Endoskeleton, exoskeleton is the right answer. Dash. Fuels are the remains of plants and animals that have been changed by nature over millions of years. Nicely done. Fossil is a solid answer. If you are able to see clearly through an object, it is allowing light to pass through it and is dash. Perfect. Transparent is the correct choice. There are some objects through which we can see, but not very clearly. Such objects are known as dash. Strong choice. Translucent is the right answer. Substances through which light can pass partially, and things cannot be seen clearly through them are. Well reasoned. Translucent is the correct choice. The dash of the shadow depend on the shape of the object and the position of the source of light. Right again. Shape is a valid answer. Which of the following characteristics are observed in an image formed by a pinhole camera? Well picked. Real image is the correct answer. So that the property of light traveling in straight line is called dash propagation of light. Solid response. Rectilinear is a valid choice. The sun in the early morning can cause buildings to form shadows. This shadow will be. Good thinking. Long is the right answer. What happens to the shadow of an object when it is moved closer to the light source? Smart pick. It becomes larger is the correct choice. The reflection of an object in a mirror appears to have its left and right reversed. Valid point. True is true. There is light on the earth even on a dark, cloudy day. This is because clouds are. Exactly. Translucent makes sense, and it is right choice. A device containing two-plane mirror, which gives us a higher view than a normal is.
Excellent. Periscope is a brilliant choice. Which of the following is not a necessary condition for the formation of a shadow? You got it. Your choice, an opaque object, is right.
The size of a shadow depends on the distance of the light source and the object. Bravo! True is the answer.
A solar eclipse is an eclipse that occurs when the moon passes between the dash. Well done. Sun and Earth is the right choice. A plane mirror form an image of an object because it dashes a light from the object. You chose reflects, and it is correct. Objects that do not allow light to pass through them are called dash objects.
Correct. Opaque is the right answer.
What is the effect of changing the position of an opaque object in sunlight? Great thinking. The shadow changes shape is the right choice.
During dash eclipse, shadow of the moon falls on some portions of the earth.
Nice work. You chose solar, and it is correct. A reflected image gives us more information about the object than a shadow. Nice selection. True is the correct and valid answer. What is a simple device that can be made to capture images using a pinhole? Great job. Pinhole camera is the accurate answer. Which of the following are transparent or allows light to pass through it? Clear logic. Your choice glass is sound and 100% true. Which of the following properties is the reason for shadows to be formed? Good job. Your answer, rectilinear propagation of light, works well here. When green light falls on a blue object, the color of the shadow is dash. Smart move. Black is an accurate answer. When light hits a barrier that is solid opaque, what is usually created?
Correct response. A shadow is the most accurate answer.
What is the best explanation for a person seeing himself in the mirror? Right choice. Reflection is the best answer.
Wood and cardboard are dash objects which light cannot travel through.
Great thinking. Opaque is the right choice. A shadow is created when a light is absorbed by something transparent. False is the answer. Butter papers, a sheet of paper smeared with oil, are example for dash. Good thinking. Translucent object is the right answer. Light is a form of dash that is essential for the existence of life. Excellent choice. Energy is the right answer. A shadow is always black in color, regardless of the object's color. Well done. True is the right choice. An object which does not give out or emit light on its own is called. Solid response. Non-luminous is a valid choice. What do we call objects that allow light to pass through partially? Clear logic. Your choice, translucent, is sound and 100% true. Which of the following is not always necessary to observe a shadow? You chose sun, and it is correct. Objects that do not give out or emit light of their own are called. Nicely done. Non-luminous is a solid answer. How many types of materials are there based on light transmission? Strong choice. Opaque, transparent, translucent is the right answer. Objects which does not allow light to pass through them are called. Exactly. Opaque objects make sense and it is right choice. The up-down movement of our arm are controlled by two muscles dash. On track, biceps and triceps is the correct answer. The objects that produce their own light are called dash objects. Well reasoned. Luminous is the correct choice. Dash are formed when an opaque object comes in the path of light. Excellent. Shadows is a brilliant choice. What type of object allows light to pass through it completely? Perfect. Transparent is the correct choice. The distance from the sun to the earth is dash lakh kilometers. Valid point. 1485 is true. Which types of objects do not allow light to pass through them? Smart move. Opaque is an accurate answer. A transparent object which is mostly used in windows of houses. Nice selection. Glass is the correct and valid answer. The property of light by which it travels in straight line is. Right again. Rectilinear propagation is a valid answer. When an object moves closer to a light source, its shadow dash. You got it. Your choice gets bigger is right. Smooth polished surface from which reflection takes place is. Great job. Mirror is the accurate answer. True or falsies image formed by pinhole camera is inverted. Sharp thinking. True is the right choice. In which type of object light will get completely absorbed? Right choice. Opaque is the best answer. Objects which emit their own light are called dash objects. Well picked. Luminous is the correct answer. If we want to make a big shadow, then we need a dash screen. Correct. Big is the right answer. When an object blocks the source of light, what is formed? Correct response. Shadow is the most accurate answer. Which one of the following is the natural source of light? You're right. Sun is the correct answer. Name the object that does not allow light to pass through. Smart pick. Opaque object is the correct choice. The dark patches are formed behind. The objects are called. Nice work. You chose shadow, and it is correct. Out of these, which one is not a man-made luminous body? Good job. Your answer, Firefly, works well here. What type of surface reflects light in a regular manner? Right choice. Smooth and polished surface is the best answer. The image can be seen dash through a transparent object. Perfect. Clearly is the correct choice. What happens to the image seen through a pinhole camera? Good thinking. It is upside down is the right answer. Which of the following is an example of an opaque object? Great job. Cardboard sheet is the accurate answer. Which of these are required to form the shadow of a bull? Strong choice. All of these is the right answer. Which of the following can never form a circular shadow? Nicely done. A shoebox is a solid answer. If you can see light through an object, it is called dash. Exactly. Transparent makes sense, and it is right choice. A dash of light is broader and consists of several rays. Correct. Beam is the right answer. Following are not the examples of non-luminous objects. Right again. Sun is a valid answer. When light hits an area and bounces back, it is called. Well done. Reflection is the right choice. Which of the following objects can cast a dark shadow? Correct response. A wooden door is the most accurate answer. The joint present between the bones of skull is a dash. You chose fixed joint, and it is correct. Which of the following does not have light of its own? Clear logic. Your choice. The moon is sound and 100% true. Bouncing back of light from shining surfaces is called. Valid point. Reflection is true. Name the type of joint that help you to nod your head. Sharp thinking. Pivot joint is the right choice. Which of the following parts of the skull is movable? Or? Nice selection. Lower jaw is the correct and valid answer. An object that gives out its own light is called dash. Good job. Your answer, luminous object, works well here. What do we observe when we shine a light on a mirror? Well picked. The light reflects is the correct answer. Which is a device used to see the image of the sun? Well reasoned. Pinhole camera is the correct choice. Narrow beam of light before reflection is known as? Solid response. Reflected ray is a valid choice. What is formed when an opaque object blocks light? Smart pick. Shadow is the correct choice. Pinhole cameras can be used to image dashed objects. You're right. Bright is the correct answer. What are objects that emit their own light called? Smart move. Luminous objects is an accurate answer. What kind of object do we need to create a shadow? Excellent choice. Opaque is the right answer. The object which does not have light of its own is? Bravo! Shining mirror is the answer. What are the characteristics of a good reflector? Nice work. You chose smooth and shiny, and it is correct. The shadow of a colored object is also colored. On track. False is the correct answer. Which of the following is a cold source of light? You got it? Your choice, firefly, is right. If light hits something transparent, it will dash. Great thinking. Pass-through is the right choice. An earthworm is able to move with the help of its? Excellent. Muscles is a brilliant choice. Which of the following is not a luminous object? Well done. Planets is the right choice. What do mirrors do to the light that hits them? You chose change its direction, and it is correct. Which object would be best at reflecting light? Perfect. Mirror is the correct choice. Images of actors on screen in cinema halls are? Great job. Real images is the accurate answer. The this screen is a must to receive the shadow. Smart pick. Opaque screen is the correct choice.
What are some examples of transparent objects? Correct response. Glass, water, air is the most accurate answer. Light travels about dash a km per second in air.
Well picked. 300,000 is the correct answer.
Which of the following is a transparent object? Clear logic. Your choice clear glasses sound and 100% true. What is the main purpose of a pinhole camera? Strong choice. To capture images is the right answer. Can you see the shadow in total darkness too? Great thinking. No is the right choice. What is the primary source of light on Earth? Correct. Sun is the right answer. Following are the examples of opaque objects. Smart move. Walls and pencil is an accurate answer. An opaque object creates darkness behind it. Well reasoned. True is the correct choice. Which is an example of a translucent object? Bravo. Butter paper is the answer. Light passes partially through dash material. Nicely done. Translucent is a solid answer.
The principle behind the pinhole camera is
Exactly. Rectilinear propagation of light makes sense and it is right choice. Which of these are natural sources of light? Valid point. Sun is true. What can we see when we look into a mirror? Nice work. You chose reflection and it is correct. Dash objects partially reflects the light.
on track. Translucent is the correct answer.
In a pinhole camera, the image formed is
Right choice. Inverted and smaller is the best answer.
what enables us to see objects around us. Right again. Light is a valid answer. What do we need to see objects around us? Nice selection. Light is the correct and valid answer. Shadows are shortest at this time of day. Solid response. Noon is a valid choice. Any object that emits its own light dash. Good job. Your answer, luminous object, works well here. On a mirror, you see a dash of your face. Sharp thinking. Reflection is the right choice. The main natural light source is the dash.
You're right. Sun is the correct answer.
Light dash when it passes through water. Excellent. Bends is a brilliant choice. Which objects let light to pass through?
You got it. Your choice, both transparent and translucent, is right.
Which of these is not a source of light? Excellent choice. The moon is the right answer. True-false wooden block is transparent. Good thinking. False is the right answer. The colors that reflect more light are right again. Bright colors is a valid answer. Which of the following has endoskeleton?
Exactly. Humans make sense, and it is right choice.
What is a substance which gives light? Well done. Sun is the right choice. What do we need to create a periscope? Good job. Your answer 2 mirrors works well here. Shadow of which object is the dullest? Valid point. Transparent is true. Images formed by a pinhole camera are. Strong choice. Both 1 and 2 is the right answer. A very narrow beam of light is called. Clear logic. Your choice ray is sound and 100% true. Objects that produce light are called. Excellent choice. Luminous is the right answer. Dash reflection gives us clear images. You're right. Mirror is the correct answer. Smooth surfaces dash a lot of light. Smart pick. Reflect is the correct choice. Light passes through opaque objects. Nice work. You chose false, and it is correct. Periscope works on the principle of. Bravo. Reflection of light is the answer. How many sources of light are there? Smart move. 2 natural and human-made is an accurate answer. Image formed in a pinhole camera is. Correct. Inverted is the right answer. Dash changes the direction of light. You chose mirror, and it is correct. Reflection does not take place from. Well reasoned. Book is the correct choice. Example of transparent material is. On track. Window is the correct answer. What is the speed of sound in air? Well picked. 343 meters per second is the correct answer. A shadow is always of dash color. Excellent. Black is a brilliant choice. What is the main source of light? You got it? Your choice sun is right. Which color reflects more light? Great job. Light color is the accurate answer. Which source of light is natural? Nicely done. Lightning is a solid answer. The moon is a non-luminous body. Solid response. True is a valid choice. Identify the non-luminous object. Right choice. Moon is the best answer. The 2 kinds of reflection are. Nice selection. Regular and diffuse is the correct and valid answer. Dash helps us to make a shadow. Correct response. Opaque objects is the most accurate answer. Shadows are longest during dash. Sharp thinking. Morning and evening is the right choice. Pinhole camera is based on dash. Perfect. Rectilinear propagation of light is the correct choice. Dash travels in straight line. Good thinking. Light is the right answer. The moon is a source of light. Great thinking. False is the right choice. Butter paper is a dash object. Smart pick. Translucent is the correct choice. Shadows occur longest in dash. Nice selection. Afternoon is the correct and valid answer. The shadow is dark outline of. Well reasoned. An object is the correct choice. Dash help us to see an object. Excellent choice. Light is the right answer. Light travels in straight line.
Excellent. True is a brilliant choice. Which is a transparent object? Nice work. You chose glass, and it is correct. What are the sources of light? Nicely done. All of these is a solid answer. Can a shadow trick us? You chose yes, and it is correct. Light travels in a dashed line. Great job. Straight is the accurate answer. Does the moon provide light? Right again. No is a valid answer. Example of luminous objects. Right choice. The sun bulb, stars, is the best answer. Which of these is luminous? Correct. Sun is the right answer. The lunar eclipse occurs on. Sharp thinking. Full moon is the right choice. Sound is faster than light. Perfect. False is the correct choice. Bending of light is called. You got it. Your choice refraction is right. A shadow can be formed on. Good thinking. Opaque screen is the right answer. A mirror is an example of. Exactly. Opaque object makes sense and it is right choice. Shadows are not trustable. Well picked. True is the correct answer. Diamond is a dash object. Smart move. Transparent object is an accurate answer. Light is a form of dash. Strong choice. Energy is the right answer. Shadows are smaller in. Solid response. Noon is a valid choice. Size of the shadow dash. Valid point. May vary is true. How does light travel? On track. In a straight line is the correct answer. A plane mirror forms a. Bravo! Virtual image is the answer. Cloud is a dashy object. Clear logic. Your choice translucent is sound and 100% true. Light travels in dash. You're right. Straight line is the correct answer. The speed of light is. Good job. Your answer 300,000 Kamamaras works well here. Glass sheet is an. Correct response. Translucent object is the most accurate answer. What gets reflected? Great thinking. Light is the right choice. What does moon do? Well done. Reflect sun's light is the right choice. Mirrors work by. Nice work. You chose reflecting the light, and it is correct. What is shadow? Great job. A darker portion is the accurate answer. What is light? On track. A form of energy is the correct answer. Shadow is dash. Correct. Three-dimensional is the right answer. Light travels. You chose in a straight line, and it is correct. Firefly is a. Excellent. Living luminous body is a brilliant choice. Solid waxes. Well picked. Opaque is the correct answer. Stars are. Valid point. Luminous bodies is true. Aries. Bravo. Transparent is the answer. how you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format?
Smart pick. Contact Narayan Changda on Facebook is the correct choice.